Good morning, Lorraine. Hey, so in my most recent post, I'm talking about Mr. Levesque and his inability to understand what youth services is and all this stuff. They are really trying hard to find any excuse to not make my information protected, which in the grand scheme of things, I don't care. As far as my address goes, I just feel like if there's laws in place and rules in place, you got to follow them. So I posted the response. He's like, well, youth services is someone that specifically works for the state agency, even though the county court says youth services on their department that I worked with. He wants to nitpick and nitpick and nitpick and nitpick and say, oh, it says probate court or this or that. It also says drug and alcohol use. It also says anybody that works within the court systems and provides mental health evaluations. That's me. I mean, you can't force me to prove it. I can't provide you with HIPAA-protected documents. But everyone knows. I mean, you can call the Juvenile Services Department and ask if I once worked for them. And again, my whole argument was back then I did work for them. So during that time, my information would be covered in regards to that. There's a whole lot of other laws on this that you could be really approaching this from as opposed to trying to attack my credibility. But the other laws that you'd have to attack it from would require you to release public information of law enforcement as well. Because in the grand scheme of things, the protections have to be asked for. They have to be notified. I have to tell you, the government, per the Attorney General's opinion, that I want you to exercise this right. And technically, I believe it has to be in the course of identifying me and who I would be as a social worker, just like with law enforcement, which also means if I am at the city hall and I'm speaking as a citizen, but I'm also up there speaking on social worker views and ethics and methodologies and my feelings for the community and the county. All the work that I do within the county is under my ethical code. So yeah, I'm a public service worker, bro. Like, you don't want to admit it. You guys want to make this about Aaron. You want to make it so hard for me to keep my information protected. And I don't understand why. Like, I don't care. I'm fighting for other social workers. There are other females. There are female social workers, disabled social workers, plenty of people that work within these systems that will not fight you on this stuff. So I have to do it for them. That's what this is about. So understand this, Mr. Levesque. You're wrong. Like, my information is protected. But if you really want to dig deep into the who, what, why, when, where of how it's protected, when it's protected, and who has to protect it, then we have to dig into that who, what, why, when, where of law enforcement and judges and all these other people's information being protected. Like, for example, Ray Carrion's information isn't protected, but you blacked it out of the email when you provided it to me. So you can't have it both ways, guys. Like, if you don't want to protect my information, then you can't protect yours. So let's just do that then. If you want to say my information is public and you want to provide it to everyone and make me provide it to everyone, then let's do that with Ray. Let's do that with Mayor Bradley. Everyone. All government employees, you put your email addresses out there on video, in fact. Go on video and do it. You too, Mr. Levesque. I mean, it's all public record, right? It doesn't matter. Let's have all the cops do it, too. It's all public record. It doesn't matter. So, you see the dangerous slope that we go down when we start doing this? So I posted the county court's page showing they consider Crossroad juvenile services or whatever it is, and children's services, or I don't know, whatever the statement is. Youth services, that's what it is, youth services. You work with delinquent youth. I still do. I just don't do it for Crossroads. I'm currently in a training program to provide custodial evaluations. I have my guardian ad litem, certificate. Regardless of whether Lorain County removed me from the current calls of people who represent the guardian ad litems because of work, I have the certification. I'm certified as a guardian ad litem, and I can do that work. I can provide you with that certificate that also shows that I work with the courts. Again, and it doesn't have to just be Lorain County courts, Mr. Levesque. You said Lorain County courts, but I work in Westlake. I work all over. I could be working in Cuyahoga courts. I could be working in Medina courts. I could have written letters to Medina courts or to the Cuyahoga courts. I'm not confirming or denying that I've done any of these things because I cannot. But you don't know that. So providing my licensure, showing you that I'm a CDCA, licensed to work with the drug and alcohol population of Ohio, licensed to be interacting with these people, and a member of that operating board as a practitioner, I am covered. I cannot provide you with the information of clients I see because that would be HIPAA violation. And while you're not covered under HIPAA, I am. And so by law, you can't force me to do that. I don't have to be employed by the agency. But if they utilize my services, I'm protected. Again, don't really overly care about the protection status as much for me as I care about it for other people. My profession is mainly made up of females and people of color and people of other, other sexualities and gender assignments. And we're a very diverse population of providers. And so they don't all look like me. In fact, I'm kind of unusual in that. That's why I'm fighting this fight. Again, for the record, I don't care that you want, whatever you want. This is just a fight for you guys to fight. Like, you could literally let this go, but you won't. Because if you let it go and you say that my information was protected, then you know that Chief McCann was wrong. And even if it isn't protected now under the juvenile services stuff, it was then. I was working for children, or for that program. I was working for Crossroads Juvenile Justice. That is part of, that's it, youth services. That's part of youth services. It's on their website. You guys keep wanting to change things. I've read all of your websites. So the county website used to say all guardian ad litems are sworn officers of the court. I have that posted on my page. The county's now changed their webpage to say something else. The county's webpage calls this youth services. So if it says youth services on the county webpage, I have every reasonable, idea that I worked for youth services. I'm sure they'll change that on the website soon, now that I've pointed it out. Which means you guys should all review all of your websites, county and city. I know James McCann still has stuff up on his police website that's old. I know you guys have apps and things on your websites that are no longer valid, links that go to nothing. Like, could you not just hire someone to clean up your websites and get information out there correctly so that people who are trying to follow the law can follow the law? Because if you're claiming that Crossroads isn't part of youth services, then you're claiming that the county is lying on their website. So again, unlike apparently most people in our government, I read what you put online. I read the laws and the rules that you have out there. I've read every one of your websites, and I will nickel and dime you on this one all the way to court. We can go to court on it because this also affects law enforcement addresses and other people's addresses, certain government officials, certain court officers. You guys need to understand this is a law designed to protect you folks more than me. And you're fighting me on it because, that's why. Because you only want it for you. That's our protection. That's our qualified immunity. That's ours. We own that, not you. You can't have that. You're not one of us. We just call you the expert when you come into court. Go ask the judges in the juvenile court if I worked there. They have to at least confirm that. So if you want to confirm my status, I've been informed by the juvenile courts that you can contact them and they will confirm that I did work there and give you the dates. That's the best you're going to get out of them. That's the best you're going to get out of me, Levesque. So stop trying to hide behind picking apart the law. The law says that I'm protected, and I am. And if you want to fight this, let's just fight it. Let's pick a date, let's go to court, and let's prove it. Because I believe in my heart of hearts that I will win on this. I believe that I am right. I don't understand why would you want to share my information? That's the bigger question. Why do you believe you need to share my information with everyone? Why is that so important to you? Are you trying to get me hurt? Is that what's going on here? Because that's what it feels like. You guys are so desperate to tell me no for everything. And that brings us to our next point. I want those policies and procedures. So first there's too many of them because I'm asking for them. Now I realize there's over 600 of them. I get it. You think it's too broad, even though I'm just saying I want the manual. So then I said, give me 1 through 20. That's still too broad. So I've dropped it down to just 1. Give me rule 1, and we'll go from there. And then I'll ask for 2 and 3. I know there are now over 600 of them. I will ask for them all individually. Once you give me the first one, I'll submit my next records request. So as you know, I've submitted record request 1. I've asked for page 1. I've requested a second records request where I ask for the index or contents of that book, showing me every policy and procedure that's laid out so I'm aware of what they are and which ones I want. Thirdly, I've asked you for a viewing time to spend a minimum of 2 hours down there at your city hall reviewing this documentation. Since there are over 600 pages, I will require at minimum 2 hours, and I will require a desk and an area to sit that accommodates my disability and the ability to get up and move frequently. Also the ability to take notes, take pictures, and take video of the incident, of my travels throughout City Hall, and of the actual manual itself. This is allowed by law. These are under the law requirements for viewing documents at City Hall. So while you can say it's an overly broad request, you can't say it's overly broad if I want to come view it. So provide me with these 3 things. I'll pick through those 600 plus policies and procedures. You're right, that is a lot of them. So I'll find all the good ones. The ones that talk about not sleeping with each other. The ones that talk about not harassing citizens. The ones that talk about email procedures. The ones that talk about body cam procedures. The ones that talk about how you're supposed to interact with the public. The ones that talk about, not being jackboot thugs and going to city hall meetings and enforcing unenforceable rules and non-laws. Like, you guys need to really start being held accountable. So, yeah, let's do this. Let's do it all the way across the board. But I'm going to get those policies and procedures, because why do you want to hide them so much, Mr. Levesque? Why do they scare you? Why do public records scare all of the city of Lorain so bad? What would be the problem with Aaron Knapp, social worker, prognosticator of prognosticators, seer of seers? What would be the problem with me having that book? If other than you're scared that I'll start to hold you accountable to it. Because, again, I read 305. 305, we can go through that at a later date. But when you read 305 that I posted on my page, which boils down to the way they're supposed to treat us and talk to us, both in email and professionally, James McCann destroyed that in his interactions with me, and many other officers have as well. I think it's time for a refresher course. All of you should have one class specifically on 305. In fact, I volunteer to give it. For free. So let's get your shit together, please. I need you to do this, guys. I need you to stop fighting me on this. The protecting my information protects the police's information, protects all of the professionals under this code's information. If you fight this, we're going to delve into territories of when and where the information is and isn't protected, which means that also applies to law enforcement. So when I start looking at stuff that's typical county records, that's you have to ask to have it removed, like your property registrar. You have to go in and ask to have them remove that. You have to apply to have it removed. The onus is on law enforcement. The onus is on the asker, not the government. I'm asking you. That means all law enforcement does as well need to ask you. They need to go and apply for exemptions with the county building department. Because right now, I can go ask for that from the county, and they'll be forced to give it to me if you didn't apply for an exemption. Is that the rule you want to go? Is that how you want to do this? You want to start giving everyone's address out? That's fine. Let's have yours. Let's have James's. Let's have Ray Carrion's, especially his new one, because you guys refused to provide that in the letter of his personnel file. But if my information's public record, so is his. Provide it. Otherwise, give me the same protections. Stop trying to get me killed. Stop trying to get me hurt. Stop trying to put me in danger. My information and my address should be safe from government disclosure. It's not that I'm worried about the citizenry. I'm worried about you guys giving it to people. I'm worried about you guys putting it out and someone getting a hold of it that's maybe a little off and doing something with it. Maybe a former client gets a hold of my address. Maybe they weren't capable of finding it without your assistance. And now you provided it to them. I've been fighting this fight for a very long time, even back in Idaho, when CPS of Idaho was releasing unredacted documents to me on my daughter's custody case that contained police officer information, witness information, addresses, phone numbers. All of this stuff showed up under the redaction in the print preview mode. And I fixed that, went all the way to the highest person, second highest person in Idaho's CPS department. and spoke to her, Roxanne Prince, and we got it fixed. But it was an ongoing records issue that was technologically driven because they didn't have up-to-date, technologically sound blackout programs that would annotate all the documents. And so in print preview mode, I could print them with no annotation. So I had all that information. The problem with that is this. It doesn't just put the officer at risk. It puts the person who you accidentally gave it to at risk. So if you give someone my information and they say, hey, yeah, I've got that, and they store it in their computer or anything like that, and then something happens to me or an officer or someone whose information was done that way, that liability comes back on you, the city. And so that's where the scary parts come in. Is that people can get blamed for stuff because you set them up to fail by providing this information. And it doesn't mean they did it. It just means it created that reasonable doubt, that iota of suspicion that caused them to be viewed or reviewed. So you save people that trouble by just not doing that. You save me that trouble when you don't give out my information, and you save me that trouble when you don't give out other people's information to me. Because in the grand scheme, I don't want James McCann's personal address or any of that information when it comes to their homes or addresses. Technically, I don't even want Ray's. All I really want is you guys to follow the rules. All I really want is you to protect mine, not give me theirs. And so, because if you give me theirs, I'm subject to that too. Now suddenly something happens to them and someone's going to look right at me. I don't need that. Granted, I video myself in their house, but that's not the point. I just don't want that kind of stress on me, and I don't think anyone else needs to have that kind of stress on them either. So just do me a favor, protect our information, do the right thing, start looking up what youth services is, Mr. Levesque, because you're not right. You don't work in this field. You get mad at me when I try to tell you laws and stuff. Well, I get mad at you when you try to talk about what social workers are and what we do and what therapists do and what clinical drug and alcohol counselors do. This is the other part that you guys have failed to realize about me. I have 2 licenses, not 1, but 2. My first one is a licensed social worker. The second one that I signed with is a CDCA, clinical drug and alcohol counselor. That particular licensure gives me the authorization to work with our SUD population here in Lorain, and I do. So, and that is extremely protected information all across the board, and that's why it's in there. SUD stuff is covered under CF 42, I believe it is, which requires me to put an extra layer of security on everything I do and speak on when it comes to this population. And so that's why in all of this it talks about people who are licensed through the OMAS board, basically, the Ohio Mental Health and Services Board, and people that are working within that system. And as a CDCA, that's what I do. So again, if you'd like to look all this stuff up, Mr. Levesque, feel free to do so. For those watching, for those on my page, look at the stuff I posted. I know typically I post a lot, so you don't read a lot of it. But this is really easy. It's just a couple of quick emails. It shows Levesque denying me. It shows him saying that youth services is this, and I need to prove that. And it shows him saying that I have to prove that I provide stuff to a probate court. Which, again, prove I provide it, or do I provide it, or am I able to provide it? The law is vague when it comes to that. And when it comes to the laws, you side with that vague side. Like, you look at what would a reasonable person believe. And I believe if you read that law, a reasonable person will believe that I'm protected. And so everything I've done, everything I've researched says that means that everyone else is protected. And again, to be clear, you're only protected from government disclosure. So when it comes to standard county procedures like my property taxes and all that stuff that you guys talk about, I have to actually apply for an exemption with the county per the law in order to get that exemption at that level. The only place it's really protected is in conjunction with you and your professional stuff. And I consider all of this advocacy work at the City Hall and everything I'm doing with the government part of my professional advocacy work and required under my ethical code. So I don't care if my property taxes are with the county recorder's office, because I'm not really advocating in that arena. I am, however, advocating in the arena of the video camera arena of City Hall and advocating in an arena of public records where you guys seem to have a lot of problems with public records. And so, yeah, I want to keep my information out of public records. That's it. I don't want you putting my address in public records. I don't care if you put my name in there, but I don't want my address. I mean, regardless, it doesn't matter because McCann broke the law when he sent everything from those clear screens, because they had my phone number too. Like, certain things are protected. Certain personal information is protected. He took a picture of the entire screen. He didn't black out anything. He just sent the whole thing, both via text and via email. So, in that regards, enough information was shared that it would have made it illegal back then. My point of the matter is that I did work for youth services back then, or under their guise as a contract agent, and had contact with youth services individuals. And to this day, I technically still do have contact with youth services individuals. Just because as a client practitioner I moved from one job to another doesn't mean my clients don't sometimes come with me. Doesn't mean that I'm not seeing current clients that are not mandated. That's the problem that you run into when you start saying, prove it. Like, I can't give you anything. All I can give you is my license and my license number by law. You're asking me to violate the law again, and I just can't do it. You want to use very specific terms of employed and things like that. Well, it doesn't specifically say I have to be employed by them, paid by them. If they're contracting me, I'm employed by them. I'm making money through them. My money comes from the courts. That's how this stuff works. So, again, if you want me to have to go write a letter to an editorial board and the NASW saying that all social workers or mental health professionals shouldn't work in Lorain in these areas because Joseph Levesque will not protect them. And Joseph Levesque acts as a prosecutor in other counties as well. Which, again, I don't know how that works, but you're working in multiple places yourself. And so if you believe that our records are not protected, then what will you do in court? If you ask me to testify for you in a criminal case, I won't do it now because I don't trust that you'll keep my information private. You see how that works? This is what you're destroying. Public trust. But I'm a licensed professional. I'm not these other people that you've been dealing with. I'm not going to just back down and let you bully me into oblivion. I'm going to make sure that everyone's information is protected. So go look at those emails. He's a moron. Like, I don't understand. Like they're nitpicking. You're not this because of this one little line here or this one little line. I'll prove it. I don't have to prove it. All I have to do is tell you I don't want it up. Now, if you're fighting me so you can keep it up, that tells me that you want to expose me, no other reason. I mean, and again, like I said, it would be easy for you to ask the Attorney General for an opinion, but I don't think you're going to like that opinion because it's also going to expose a lot of law enforcement officers' information to public disclosure, which I don't want to see happen. I really just want you to protect me like I'm supposed to be protected when it comes to my information. Do the right thing, Joseph Levesque. That's all I'm asking. I mean, you're a guy that can get PPO loans excused from your own LLC by the city that you work for, that I don't understand why you're being so difficult with me. Other than to be difficult. Other than to say no. Because I know if you admit that my information was supposed to be protected, then that means James also committed a crime when he shared it there too. But that's not even the biggest issue of his crime. His crime doesn't boil back to that. His crime boils back to he retaliated. The sharing of my information with the county administrator was Tim Weitzel was minimal. I mean, in the grand scheme of all the crimes he committed, that was the smallest one. The largest one being the retaliatory act, because this was only, I mean, again, the letter terminating me said it was because I made complaints against the Lorain Police Department. Now, that's retaliation. Now you move over to the next part where he went after my license. Like, you and then you take into account the email stuff where he wouldn't stop emailing me and I had to block him. So he harassed me into oblivion. And yet I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. And they want to keep arguing with me. Every email I send chips away at their little facade. Every request I send chips away at their facade. I'm currently asking for the Lorain Police Policy and Procedures Manual. They won't give it to me unless I give them specific policies and procedures I want. But there's 600 of them, and I don't know which ones I want. So now I'm going to have to play this game. So I've asked for number one. I strongly suggest all of you call up or email Mr. Levesque and ask him for that same thing. I see you're on, Jane. Jane, you'll do that. Send Levesque an email. Christopher Brio, I see you too. Jacqueline Cross, send Levesque an email. I'm asking for policy number 1. If you guys could get 2, 3, 4, and 5 and send those to me, that would be great. They've basically broken this down to say, we're not going to give you 1 through 5. We're not going to give you 1 through 20. We're not going to give you the whole book. We're going to make you ask specifically, break it down specific, exactly what you want. Okay, well, I don't know what the book contains, so I've asked for the table of contents / index. If everyone else could ask for that, and then maybe send it to me if they get it, that would be great. Then I can research the contents, figure out which policies I need to review to hold law enforcement accountable. But the bigger question would be why is Mr. Levesque and McCann so adamant on hiding these policies and procedures when I have a copy of the disciplinary and the investigative ones, 305 and 600, that McCann got and sent to Garen Petty. So you'll send those 2 to Garen Petty, but you won't send them to me? That sounds fishy to me. And so if you won't send them to me, then you have a reason. And I believe that reason is you don't want me, social worker extraordinaire, prognosticator of prognosticators, seer of seers, to see a shadow and go back in for 6 weeks of winter. What you want me to do is you want me to just ignore you, and that's not going to happen. I'm not going to go away on this matter. I'm going to get those policies and procedures, and we're going to all start following the law. We're going to all start doing the right thing. And if I have to, I'll come to City Hall, and I'll get all you yaks at City Hall to do the right thing too. You're going to start voting right, acting right, quoting ROC right, doing the right thing at all times. This is what a watchdog does. So just remember that, guys. Take a look at those videos, those emails that I posted from Levesque, trying to argue me into being something else so that he can argue and say he can disclose my information publicly. Why? That's the bigger question, why? Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. You make it a wonderful day. Remember, freedom's scary. Deal with it.